Good evening and a warm welcome to the Foreign Correspondents Club of South Asia. Delighted to have you here. And we are here today to discuss a very interesting book which has just come out on how Prime Ministers of India took some very crucial decisions while they were in office. And I happened to read the whole book from cover to cover. And meticulously researched political theory and all people who are interested in knowing about recent history in India, they would love to read this. The book is priced at 1,000 rupees, but they're giving a 20% discount. And those of you who wish to buy it, Nirja, I'm sure, will be very happy to autograph it for you. Welcome to you, Nirja. Delighted to have you with us, and congratulations on this book, which has been discussed and talked about, and it has been received very good, raving reviews. I would like to invite my colleague Prakash Nanda to introduce the author, and then we'll take it from there.
Does it need an introduction? But anyway, we'll complete. Nirja Chaudhary is an award-winning journalist, columnist, and political commentator. In the course of a distinguished career of over 40 years, she was political editor of the Indian Express for 10 years and covered the terms of 8 prime ministers and 10 Lok Sabha elections. Personally, I have been reading her since she was in Statesman. I think you were in the Statesman. And we are reading Statesman those days because it was said that if you want to learn English, then you must read Statesman. Anyway, she has won several prestigious awards for her journalism, including the first Chameli Devi Jain Award for Outstanding Women Media Persons, that was in 1981. Then the India Today PUCL Journalism for Human Rights Award, that was in 1983, and the Prem Bhatia Award for Best Political Reporting, that is in 2009-10. She is now the contributing editor of the Indian Express. Her weekly Nirja Chaudhary column is daily is widely followed by participants and observers of contemporary Indian politics. Welcome.
Nirja, tell us about how you managed to write this fat book. And, when you read the book, you feel as if, somebody, she was in the drawing rooms of people. It's very interesting, intimate details are available. How did you manage to put such a book together? How long did it take you? And you say that you saved all your notebooks of 40 years of journalism and used quotes from there and all that. I mean, it's very difficult to keep even 1 year's notebooks. At least I found that. What was about it?
But certainly last 25 years definitely. And when I first thought I might someday soon write a book, when I started to, whenever I would interview people, Venkat, I would use your diaries. They're the New Year key. Every diaries जो होती है. Not these thin things that we use and then. Most of my interviews are with this, and they have kept well, unlike these kind of things. And yes, I kept copious notes of interviews, and one day they may come in useful, apart from the day's story that you were doing. So, in my mind, as I progressed into political writing, I realized what people knew outside was very different from the goings on inside. About how politicians, political parties, prime ministers made their decisions. And that was, the pulls, the pressures, the machinations, the manipulation, the knives out for each other, the need to survive immediately. It was all that, and I felt this story had not been told and needed to be told at some point. But as a working journalist, immediate takes over. So this goes on the back burner. So I would, in 2002, 3, I did some serious work. Then I got cancer. So that was on the back burner. In 5, 6, I did again some serious work. Then something happened. So it was only in 2018 that I signed up with Aleph to do the book. And actually, even then, it was only during the COVID years. Once we went into the lockdown period, it's then that I really intensively did work for 2.5 years. And as I was telling friends, my I don't know how the COVID years went, and my existence was my bed and 6, 7 feet down, a computer table, and 10 feet out into the living room, the dining table. That triangle was my life and existence for those two. And of course, sometimes go around the terrace and go for a walk. So, but it was very exciting to be, so preoccupied living with these characters all the time. So, and one thing from the beginning I wanted was to write for the millennials. I wanted younger people to read this. So I'm not an academic, and I didn't want this book to be written in a heavy style. And politics is all about drama, suspense. It's not like beautiful prose. So that is also what I wanted to get. So when I met people and talked to them, particularly in the last 3, 4 years, I used to ask them about details that you're talking about. Anil Bali is a character who was in the Mohan Meakin company, very close to Kapil Mohan, who was very close to Sanjay Gandhi and Indira Gandhi for those years when she was Prime Minister. So he told me things, and when I sat with him, I would ask him, Acha, now you met Indira Gandhi after she lost. Where were you seated? Where did she receive you? Did she serve you tea? What is the conversation? So the recall it wasn't that we met and she was feeling very despondent, not good enough. Just recall. Did she give you? And he recalled that she served us tea and chicken sandwiches. He remembered that it was obviously something he liked and recalled. Normally she'd meet us in the sitting room. This time she met us outside because she was afraid of what the Janata government might be doing, bugging her. So those kind of details, I was anyway interested because they evoke an image in people's mind, and particularly the younger people. I suppose we are in many ways becoming an attention deficit generation, us also. So you have to hook people's interest. So that is what Venkat got me to go for that kind of a style, which I'm also more comfortable.
The people you write about, you've chosen 6 prime ministers, and I have had an occasion to meet all of them, interview them. But I was working for a Fortnightly magazine in those days, and one met them only once or twice while flying in a plane or traveling wherever, whatever. But you make quite a few interesting points about each one of them, like Mrs. Gandhi being very religious and believing that if she had visited a particular temple in Himachal Pradesh on a particular day, her son would not have died in a plane crash the next day. And she was very keen on keeping good relations with the RSS and encouraged Rajiv Gandhi to meet RSS people, the number 2 guy, and but make sure that nobody should know about it, very secretive and all that. And you talked about P.V. Narasimha Rao. The popular perception about Rao is that he would not take any decisions. If you read the book, you find that if he doesn't want to take a decision on a particular subject, he would not take a decision. But if he's interested in taking a decision, he would do it, you know, like that. And when the Ayodhya temple, the Babri Masjid was pulled down, and the charge was that he did not do enough to stop it, and he believed in whatever Kalyan Singh, the chief minister at that time, said. But it was pulled down, and later he told somebody, "Ye to hona hi tha," that kind of. In other words, he was quite sympathetic to the cause that it was invader who built a masjid over a temple, and the masjid had to be knocked down. And I think that's very interesting. And one comes across these people as men of straw with feet of clay. They took decisions which changed the course of Indian history, but they were not looking at the national interest as such. They did certain things at certain points of time because it was necessary for their own political survival. But they were not really interested in their place in history or anything like that. The Shabano case and the decision to open the locks, and we also didn't know that the Gophers scandal. It was revealed to Swedish radio by Arun Nehru. Popularly, it is not known. And
That's
also
what Hansraj Bhattacharya told me.
yeah. So we don't know whether that is true or not. But after Arun Nehru fell out with Rajiv got into a lot of trouble. And it's a very interesting description and how he would deal with Rajiv even after he became the prime minister. And Sonia Gandhi did not like that, and that's one of the reasons why she was happy when Rajiv got rid of Arun Nehru from the cabinet and so on. And then Arun Nehru goes and joins hands with VP Singh, and all these details are very, very interesting. And when Rajiv decides to hold elections in 1984, shortly after Mrs. Gandhi was killed on the 31st of October, but he holds elections in December, within weeks, and he wins an unprecedented majority, which even his grandfather Nehru did not have, or his mother Indira Gandhi did not have. So these are very interesting, facts, and that Mrs. Gandhi was. Even though she was the prime minister of a secular country, but she was a Hindu. She believed in going and worshipping in temples, and she was very superstitious. She really believed that if she had visited that particular temple in Himachal Pradesh on a given day, maybe her son would have survived. These are the things, and also the fact that Netra, you write that Sanjay Gandhi was very keen on becoming the chief minister of Uttar Pradesh, and Mrs. Gandhi put her foot down. That did not happen. And Indira Gandhi was actually getting ready to become the prime minister, and Rahul created a scene. I lost my grandmother, I lost my father, and I don't want to lose you. If you do not listen to me, I will do anything within my power to prevent you from fighting. These are very interesting, facts that are revealed in this book. So, which is why I think all of us should be reading this. So, tell me, apart from these sources, Anil Bali and Fateh Dar, you have so much information and meticulously dated. On such and such day, this thing happened. Those details. How did you go about collecting all that information, Netra?
Venkat, apart from maybe 2 or 3 people to whom I say sources and I don't reveal, I have attributed my name.
Yeah.
And this is the advantage of writing about prime ministers after the limited office, because there are many more people willing to come on record. So that was it. And I talked to you because I was going through India today. I was looking at how Indira Gandhi came back to power in 1980. What I was looking at Indira Gandhi was not one decision, as I did with other prime ministers. I was, of course, looking at why she went in for elections in 1977, a subject that continues to excite people even today. And maybe we haven't found the whole truth yet. And then I looked at how did this woman in 33 months bounce back to power, which you in your India Today article had said no world leader had done. I think Churchill took 7 years and de Gaulle took whatever. And here is this woman, less than 3 years, and she was routed all over North India. And she bounces back with a record number of seats that she had not won even in the election after Bangladesh.
No, her election was before Bangladesh.
Sorry, before, that's right, early March that year, correct. So that, that year, the high point of her career at that time. So when I was reading your article, and I picked up the phone and talked to you. And you came up with this marvelous story of how you had accompanied her, what happened, the typing on this, the old Remington typewriter. And he'd just come back from somewhere. He not even had a chance to go home and shave. So he sent, and he got Yashpal Kapoor's phone saying, come and see her. So we'll come to the technical area. We're traveling at 3 o'clock. And he tells his wife, please send my clothes and hairbrush. And she couldn't find that. But anyway, they found an old tape recorder. And Mrs. Gandhi looked at this and said, what is this? So he said, no, don't worry, I will take accurate, I will not misquote you. And then how they go around, what they find. Then when they come back and they land at the technical area in Palam, and the ladder is not there for many minutes. So Mrs. Gandhi gets very restless. Yashpal, what is the, how far is the ground from the plane? So he says, 10 feet, ma'am. She said, I'm going, you people wait for the ladder. And she dumps those 10 feet and walks away briskly. So this was Venkat on the phone, and here I was trying to capture every word. So sometimes it was just like that, Venkat, as I was looking for information, talking to my friends in the media, politicos, bureaucrats, maybe striking lucky. So that's how and of course over the years with people who are no longer alive, Krishan Kant, Naresh Chandra, Bhardwaj, of course, Sankhi Santhanam, a whole lot of people, R. Venkatraman, the president. So it was just there and added to it. And I think there are, even today, I think when people said about it, there's a gold mine of information. I'm pretty sure sitting in this room, you will have 10 books. If people start to recall. So it's contemporary history, and I think we need to put it down.
Another interesting thing, Nisha, you write about in your book is the reason behind the falling out of Narasimha Rao with Sonia Gandhi. Sonia Gandhi one day goes and asks Rao, if I were your daughter, what would you advise me? Should I enter politics or not? And Mr. Rao tells her, if you are my daughter, I would tell you not to enter politics. And that was the beginning of the difference between them and all that. So much so that when he died, his dead body was not allowed to enter 24 Akbar Road. They had to fly down Hyderabad. I don't know, this didn't figure in your book, but once I was asking Mr. Narasimha Rao about how Mrs. Gandhi decides and takes decisions. It says they will have a, cabinet meeting, and she would have Mr. Rao seated next to her on the right side. And if a particular subject came up for discussion, she would ask each of the ministers around the table, one after the other, one after the other. And Mr. Rao was the last person to be asked for his opinion. Then he would say, if you take this decision, these are the pros and these are the cons. Ultimately, you take the decision. And that is how she would answer it. I thought that was very interesting.
This is Indira Gandhi.
This is yeah, that's right.
But with Sonia Gandhi, this conversation, I used to see Narasimha Rao informally. He never went on record. It's only once that he said to me, "You put down your questions and answers, and I will send you," which he did, which I quoted. But the informal conversations were always very interesting. And he told me this, that soon after he'd taken over, about a year down the line, she'd asked him, do you think I should enter politics? And he said, absolutely no. But if you want, I will take your children with me when I go on my trips. I will groom them. And it was much later, in 92, I think, that he got a sense that she may actually be interested in entering politics. And 95, he felt the intention was pretty clear when she went to Amethi and criticized the government for not doing enough on the Rajiv Gandhi assassination case. Then he knew she was going to come into politics. And that's where he started to distance. He was coming in for a lot of criticism. Here's the Prime Minister, goes and calls on her, ever so often. So I think that they put a distance there. And of course, as we know, the demolition is something that the party never forgave him for and held him responsible. And literally weeks before he died, he one day stopped eating and drinking. And his daughter got very worried and they sent for Shivraj Patil, saying, please come and see him. So Shivraj Patil and Ahmed Patel and Sonia Gandhi went at night. And they cajoled him, but he kept sort of rambling. You blame me for something for which I'm not responsible. Everybody makes mistakes, but I'm not responsible for that. Anyway, they gave him a glass of water. They were with him till 2:30 a.m. And the next day, he got up and asked his children, did I speak too much last night? Now, whether this was deliberate, this was typical of Narasimha Rao, it was, or it was that he was actually very weighed down by this whole thing of the demolition. But you are right, the party did not forgive him till the end. His body lay, I remember that the gates of Akbar Road party headquarters were shut. They were not open for his body to go inside, for congressmen and women to pay their last respects, even though he'd given half a century of his life to the party. So, and today, so many, 92 means now 31 years, 32 years almost since the demolition. And today, Mani Shankar Iyer is making waves because he called yesterday at his book launch, he called Narasimha Rao the first BJP Prime Minister. So there is complete this thing going on television screens between the BJP and the Congress. So the issue continues to plague us 3 decades down the line, unresolved.
And another thing about Mr. Rao was that if you wanted to see him, he would invite you, at least me, after 9 o'clock in the night. And if you keep talking, and once I asked him, the Bofors scandal broke out, and Rajiv was having problems with the Zail Singh and all that. And I said, why is Mr. Gandhi doing all this? Why don't you see him? People tell him. He says, people gave him such a massive majority, you better suffer. I said, people voted for him because they thought there were CDFs like you to advise him. He says, what? Come again? Advise him. He said, my dear chap, you don't advise the Prime Minister unless he asks you for it. Okay? Otherwise, he would think you're being presumptuous. And one day, during those days when Arun Shauri was writing these long articles in the Indian Express attacking the government, so one evening when I went in, I said, "Who is this Shauri?" I said, "He's a journalist. I know him. You want to meet him?" He said, "No, no, I don't want to meet him. I don't know what he's got against the Congress party. He's always writing nationalist things." It's, uh, then if he said something interesting, if I pull out my notebook, being a journalist, you always carry a notebook. He said, no, put my pen down. And, it was interesting, it was like that. And Rajiv, soon after his brother died, I managed to, through common friends, got to interview him. And I figured that that was the first interview he ever gave in his life. And I spent an hour with him. He used to stay with his mother in Sablajin. So, the interview was not getting anywhere. And so I said, my God, let me just ask. I said, Rajiv, I used to call him, he was younger than I. Rajiv, am I right in assuming that you will not hesitate to enter politics if it helps your mother? It was a loaded question. I could not have said no. I said, yes, but I must be sure that my entering politics will help my mother. Then another thing happened, I said, you are a pilot, but nobody has seen you in a pilot's clothes, in a uniform. He says, what will I do about it? So I said, when are you flying next? He said, I'm going tomorrow. I said, can I send my photographer there? All that you need to do is stand in front of your plane. You have to picture. He arranged for it. We took the picture, put it on the cover of Mac at that time. And say, exclusive interview. I enter politics only. And he was a very nice person. But I did not realize that when he decided to fight elections, call elections after his mother died, he was doing scheming a lot of things. He decided to field Amitabh Bachchan against Hemodin Nandan Bahuguna in Allahabad, and then he decided to field Madhav Sindhia against Vajpayee, but nobody had a clue about it till the last minute. Only half an hour before the time expired, these guys would go and file their nomination. I remember traveling in Allahabad at that point in time, and also interviewing Vajpayee. He was sitting alone on a cot in a village, and there were no people there, and he was supposed to address a meeting. I said, where is the people? No. Abhi Rajmata aayegi na, log aayenge. That kind of situation. It's very fascinating. These details, the average people who read newspapers, we are not aware of that. But when you put it in a book and people read it, that becomes very.
Another thing that you referred to, which is very interesting, that most of our prime ministers were very superstitious. It's one thing to be religious. Indira Gandhi, of course, was turned to religion big time in 1977 when she lost power, and she was afraid for Sanjay's life. So she visited every major temple in the country. And then she put this Hinduization, used it as a political tool to offset the loss of Muslim support in the 1977 elections. So she put in place a strategy. We all believe that the Janata Party government went under the weight of its own contradiction. That's the general belief. That is not the whole truth. She devised a strategy. She won over Raj Narayan, her main opponent. He became the demolition squad for the implosion that took place in the Janata Party. She neutralized Jayaprakash Narayan. She sidelined Babu Jagjeevan Ram. He was the only real challenge to her to become Prime Minister inside Janata Party, which was under consideration. And then she Hinduized her politics. But what happened after Sanjay's death, this episode that Venkat is referred to, is very fascinating because when she had won, she believed in Chamunda Devi, this temple in Palampur in Himachal Pradesh. And she would every couple of months send money there, and the prasad would come back to her. So she was suggested to her, now that she'd won this massive victory with 353 seats, she should go to Chamunda. So she said, I will do that. So it was fixed in June that she would go. She was going to Jammu, and on her way back, she would stop in Chamunda. And while the Himachal chief minister and other leaders were there waiting for her, the message came, I think a day and a half earlier, that they were going to give Chamunda's stick. They were not going to come. And the Pandit and the temple got very, very angry. He said, ordinary people don't come, Ma forgives them. But if a ruler doesn't come, then Ma does not forgive. So next, as they continued with the puja and all, and 23rd morning, and they were going back to Delhi, and 50 kilometers down, the group gets this message that Sanjay Gandhi's plane has crashed. So then they rushed, Kapil Mohan's family was there, Anil Bali was there, others were there, so we went rushed to Delhi. And at 2:30, reached the house, and she was sitting with the body. And she immediately got up and came to them and said, is this because I didn't go to Chamunda? And then again on the Chotha ceremony, she again took Anil Bali aside and said, is it because of that? So he tried to pacify her. So then she went back to Chamunda in December. And they said that the Pandit who was doing the puja, he said his hands shook because the manner in which she did the mudras, the puja, the matha tekna, everything was just to perfection. And she just wept and wept and wept. And then she went out and planted trees in the name of Sanjay. And that day when she flew back to Delhi at an event, she called Rajiv on this stage and introduced him to the audience. So the politicians knew, what she had in mind. So, this, the superstitious part, also with Narasimha Rao. There was he believed in this Shivanand Murthy. He was a police officer turned a spiritual guru who used to live in Vizag. And Narasimha Rao, as Prime Minister, would go and see him 2 times in a year, have philosophical discussions and all. And one day he asked him, what do you think is going to happen to the Babri Masjid? So Murthy just closed his eyes and said, I don't see it there. And apparently, according to a officer who worked, he was very close to Murthy also, was in Andhra Pradesh for several years, he told me this. He said it deeply affected Narasimha Rao, somewhere, at the back of his mind. So every single Prime Minister, I think, has somewhere, because the nature of Indian politics is so uncertain. Kal kya hoga suddenly. That's why they turn to pujas and parts and havans and, and I suppose the unstable nature of our politics, that suddenly Rajiv Gandhi dies and Narasimha Rao is Prime Minister. Indira Gandhi dies in the morning. Rajiv is in West Bengal campaigning. By 7 o'clock that evening, he's taken oath. So I'm not surprised that they feel all this, relying on tantrics, and which Narasimha Rao did big time and used them politically also. So it's a fascinating story. It's not just about religion. Chandaswamy, yes, he was close to Pandit N.K. Sharma, another, if you recall. But he used them for political assignments, getting to the sons, and so on. Chandaswamy, much more than that. Dhirendra Brahmachari, of course, with Indira Gandhi. Huge influence of Indira Gandhi.
Sonia Gandhi factor, I'm talking Rajiv Gandhi when he was the PM. I have heard very, very senior officers who were working under Rajiv Gandhi. I think some of them are also expired. There are certain decisions Rajiv Gandhi did not know as the Prime Minister. And some of the decisions were about to be taken, or some of the decisions had already been taken. So Rajiv Gandhi will say that, how this decision has been taken. So they will say that, Madam King, that and they said that, he was so good. He saw to it that many of those decisions were reversed. You hear such a story? And they're praising Rajiv Gandhi. When he came to know that it is Sonia who was influenced in this being taken, he reversed most of it.
No, I didn't come across this, and I didn't even look into it as a, if I'd known, I think I might have, talked to people who I talked to and whether this was true. But certainly, this debate also continues to this day. Wajahat Habibullah said that Rajiv was kept in the dark by Arun Nehru on the decision to open the locks of the disputed structure, Babri Masjid structure. Now, you remember he brought in Muslim Women Bill to undo the Shah Banu judgment because the Muslim community was very agitated that it interfered with the personal law. And in order to balance this, to placate the Hindus, he went in for opening the locks. And this was done at the behest of Arun Nehru. And Arun Nehru had told his cousin, you think you became Prime Minister just like that? 5,006 died. There was a Hindu consolidation. And if you want to remain in power, then you'll have to do these three things. Build a temple in Ayodhya, abrogate 370, and go in for uniform civil code. Now, Arif Muhammad Khan, who was close to Arun Nehru, and I quote him in the book, he said to me that Arun Nehru told him that he had suggested to Rajiv, you open the locks. So Rajiv said, can it be done? So why don't you talk to Virubhai Singh, Chief Minister? So Nehru came back and said it could be done because it was an administrative order after the 49 incident when the Ram Lalla idol had been placed surreptitiously, in the dead of night. So he said it can be done, and I said then talk to Bahadur. So they called out from there only, and Arun Nehru said to Arif, in the middle of the conversation, I said, "Here, talk to the Prime Minister." He said, "I didn't want it said afterwards that I had done it without his knowledge." Now, Arif says that. Right, wrong, I don't know, but this is what I was told by Arun Nehru himself. Wajahat Habibullah says something very different. Now, Wajahat says it is sometime in early October, September or October of that year. The locks have been opened on 1st of February, 86. So 8-9 months down the line. He's traveling with the Prime Minister to Gujarat, and on the plane, while conversation is going on, Rajiv tells him that, I was led up the garden path, and once I'm clear, once I know for sure, I will get rid of Nehru, the two people he suspected, in the dark. Now, I found it and I raised this question. The Prime Minister of India, even if he was led up the garden path, can't find out 8 months down the line whether this was true. This is a bit, for all the agencies and information that would have been at his command. So whether he was really lit up the Kali Path, or as a senior congressman who's alive today, he told me that Rajiv knew, but possibly he didn't fully understand the implication. What it linked to. So, but these are still question marks. Rajiv said Operation Black was something that he was, the Sundarji and Arun Singh had kept him in the dark. He also said about something else, two, three things that he felt he had been kept in the dark. Now, either he was very naive, which he was politically forward looking, very forward looking, wanted to take India into the 21st century, did phenomenal things, Punjab Accord, Assam Accord, Mizoram Accord, bringing down the age of voting, anti-defection law, technology missions. I mean, he's the one who gave the order for weaponization, uh, as early as 85, not 89. But he's still talking about disarmament. Because, but no, 85 is what SK said that quote. Because in 85 October, Ronald Reagan tells him Pakistan already has a bomb. So he talks about disarmament. He said, don't talk theory. Look after your own security interests. And then he puts into motion what all he did, which are documented. But I'm saying that politically naive, yes, but can a prime minister not know for so many months that we kept in the dark? I mean, that is for me was a bit much. But conclusively, you cannot say even today.
I think we will also take flavor nature. And he decided to create Allahabad.
That was actually.
That is already. So, but VP Singh was the Uttar Pradesh Congress Committee's
Chief.
chairman. He wanted some other candidate to beat it from Allahabad against Hemati Narayan Babu. But VP Singh comes to Rajiv Gandhi's home and he asked VP Singh to sit in one particular room and he goes into another room where Amitabh is seated there and Bharadwaj is there. It is we are going to create Amitabh against Hemati Narayan Babu. But even VP Singh must not know about this and we will take Amitabh to Allahabad and the elector's office to fight his nomination just afterwards before the time expires. So I think that was
No, VP Singh was sitting in the outside room and then he was told about it. And his man had been given the ticket. So he agreed that his person, Tiwari, would be made a minister as the reward. And it's true, at 3:30, when Amitabh Bachchan went to file his nomination and Babu had to be
about VP Singh. When he was fighting elections from Allahabad after Indira Rajiv sacked him, I was traveling with him, and from Fatehpur, that's his constituency. So we were driving to Allahabad, and I sat next to him and said, "Listen, I have a hunch that you may be the prime minister when the results come and this thing happens. So I'm switching on the tape recorder, and I'll ask you questions, and you answer them as if you are the prime minister. If you make it, and you are, chosen as the prime minister, then I'll release it to the media. If it doesn't happen, I'm going to kill this story." He said, so he was, what is this guy talking about? Anyway, so it took me a few minutes, and then by the time we landed in Allahabad, I did this very interesting interview and all that. So then I didn't realize that there was so much drama. I was sitting in the central hall in Parliament. Chandrasekhar, who hated VP Singh, he wanted Devilal to become the prime minister. And he nominates Devilal, and Devilal says, I'm poor or whatever, and I would like VP Singh to be. But the drama before that, how Patnaik got involved in it, how Arun Nehru got involved, very fascinating details you had, Nirja, in the book.
That was a very interesting, prime ministership. I think many people will remember that. Yeah, how VP Singh became Prime Minister. And that really, plot that was hatched by both, really brainchild of Arun Nehru and Biju Patnaik brought on board. And in order to hoodwink the Chandrasekhar, who I remember him sitting Chandrasekhar after VP Singh had been made, and he had been told only 2 hours earlier that Devilal would be Prime Minister, and he went along with the plan. And I remember him sitting in Central Hall near that main entrance. चेहरा एकदम लाल था. He was so angry. Chandrasekhar, when he became angry, his nostrils would also flare up. And he's, that day was, the trouble. That was the genesis of the problem. Devilal said, they said to Devilal said, okay, मुझे आधे मिनट के लिए भी बना दो. तो मैं फिर इनको बना दूंगा ऐसे. He realized, that MPs would not be with him, and VP Singh was insisting that he be elected unanimously instead of a contest. Contest में भी जीत जाते, but and Devilal, therefore, this was a sort of face saver given to Devilal. But Devilal was supposed to tell Chandrasekhar in advance he planned it.
Not have agreed to that. The other thing is to talk about the tension between Advani and Vajpayee. Advani did like the fact that Vajpayee was depending a lot on his principal secretary. And he was very upset about the fact that we decided to explore the nuclear device, and he didn't know anything about it. But Rajesh Mishra was private with everything. So this was one of the reasons why they fell out, and even though they were friends for half a century, and go and watch movies and reviews about it and all that. And also the way the nuclear thing was put together, and the kind of role, Sham Saran was taken off, and M.K. Narayanan was taken in. That's also a very interesting episode at that point of time. Neerja.
M.K. Narayanan, I wish he would write his memoirs.
Yes.
He's seen so much and very little is known. And maybe he's toying with the idea of it. But he's the one who mounted the operation to get the Samajwadi Party on board when the left threatened to withdraw support to the Manmohan Singh government on the Indo-US nuclear deal. And he's the one who got Amar Singh on board first and then Karan Singh. So that offset the loss of support. And but Dr. Manmohan Singh was fascinating on the Indo-US nuclear deal. He showed a different side of Manmohan Singh, and it was really prime ministerial. Threatened to resign. He, जो बोलते हैं ना साम दाम दंड भेद सब, not giving up, no matter what the opposition, Sonia Gandhi's left, people's opposition, he saw it through in those 39 months. And of course, he had the support, really the support of George Bush, who was president. And people talked about this chemistry between them. Chemistry, should not work, doesn't really work. You all know this much better. When it comes to national interests and security of country, there are other factors that come into play. But this instance, chemistry, whenever the things would not be working and they'd run into glitches, which they did several times, this and that, and this chemistry saw them through. And it's a very fascinating part of that story. And M.K. Narayanan's role. One of the senior Congress leaders told me this about, at that time, it was part of my notes. that when Narayanan sold this idea that Samajwadi Party could offset the wealth, he fell for it hook, line, and sinker. Those are the words used. And that operation was very successful. And of course, we knew Amar Singh to be a colorful character, those of us who knew him. He thought of himself, उनको कभी भी papers में fixer का देते थे ना, that a fixer, he get very annoyed because he saw himself in a class above, the fixer, international level. He was very close to the Clintons, and so, of course, he told Sanjay Badu this, that there was the film that was based on Accidental Prime Minister. He was very peeved with him. He was not well towards the end of his life. And he called him up and he said, the person who represented me was no good. You should have had me act as myself. So he was also one of those very careful, colorful characters of Indian politics.
Anybody have any questions, please raise your hand.
Yeah. I would like to meet this gentleman who said, who told you that Mrs. Gandhi served chicken sandwiches. What the chicken sandwiches served in 12 Wellington Crescent when she was a farmer?
Mm-hmm.
When did she serve the chicken sandwiches? Was it when she was out of power and staying in 12 Wellington Crescent? Was it that time?
She had not moved out of the PM house there.
At that time, because at 12 Wellington Crescent, things were very, very austere. Because I had been there, I was in the army then, and I met her. I was in the army, I was coming to the Congress, that is how I went. Things were very, very austere, so I doubt whether it is a PM house or 12 Wellington Crescent.
Otherwise, too.
But these things tend to get a little exaggerated. Like if I have biscuits with you, I'll say, oh, I had pastries, So that is one. The second point is, I think blaming Narasimha Rao, I was there yesterday, you were also there. Blaming Narasimha Rao a little too much for the demolition for the party, I must say. I think we lessen, the blame on the BJP, Kalyan Singh, they told everybody, they told the Supreme Court, we will demolish, we will protect. So you actually trying to partially absolve the BJP if you put too much blame on Narasimha Rao. And there is a secret, as an ex-army officer, I will never let that out. There was a compulsion. Narasimha tried that. Narasimha Rao tried that, I know it. And I can't tell anybody, I won't tell even my wife. Such a big national secret that why at last minute the Babri Masjid demolition could not be prevented. That's what I think. And sorry, one more point about this, the body of Narasimha Rao not being allowed inside the gate. That is not correct for the simple reason that army truck, I think, which had come was far too big. It could not enter the gates. So this is also a very exaggerated view. The truck was far too big. It could not enter the gates. So,
can I just answer that?
Yeah, मेरा नाम प्रवीण दाव है और मैं 40 साल से ज़्यादा हो गए 19 नवंबर 1980 में I joined the Congress. Yeah, 43 years in the Congress.
Can I answer just quickly?
Yeah.
Not even answer that. Doesn't need answer because you observed. Narasimha Rao, I was there. When that body was kept out, I was there. So that could have been taken in. That I think is not correct because the way it was, that cottage could have been taken in. The gate was just not open. Anyway, for whatever reason, on the chicken sandwich, Govindacharya was talking about, RSS's support to the Congress and the Congress seeking the RSS support in several elections. And he told me in 1989, he'd gone to see Dhawan. Dhawan had asked to see him because they wanted the RSS support. And Congress people believed he said, "Har time RSS ne support kiya tha." But he said, you know what I do remember? I remember he gave me samosas and kaju to eat. This is so vivid in my mind. So ये जो छोटी चीजें होती है ना, कई बार दिमाग में बहुत रह जाती हैं. Something you've seen, something that's striking, something you ate. On Narasimha Rao, I agree with you that he used to certainly say that Kalyan Singh let him down, and Kalyan Singh let him down, having promised the court, the NIC, the Prime Minister, वो सही है, एकदम सही बात है. So whether we blame Narasimha Rao, but if he had a sense, which he seemed to have, things could go wrong. And the enormity of it, he of course thought 356 nahi karna because it couldn't be done in apprehension of the breakdown of constitution. It had to be an actual breakdown, which is what he wrote in his book also, which is published after the Yuddha. But he could have called in the army. VP Singh advised him a few days before. He could have put the assembly in suspended animation and then restored it if nothing happened. But he obviously thought the balance of advantage lay in what he did. And it went wrong. He thought this will, and he said, you know, मैंने इसमें से निकाल के what he told Nikhil Chakravarti and other journalists few days after the demolition is very telling. And Nikhil Chakravarti told him, "आप पूजा कर रहे थे. We heard you were doing puja as the masjid was coming down." And he said, "Dada, you think I don't know politics? I was born in politics and I have only been doing politics till today. जो हुआ वो ठीक हुआ. मैंने इसलिए होने दिया कि बीजेपी की मंदिर की राजनीति हमेशा के लिए खत्म हो जाए." So he wanted this festering sword to be removed, thinking it will take the wind out of the sails of the BJP. I don't think he colluded with the BJP. At least I have no evidence to bring down the masjid. But could he be called complicit? Because there is enough evidence to suggest that he had an idea this could happen. And I then quoted people, Shabab Thackeray and Sudarshan said years later that we had alerted him that this will happen, get ready for any eventuality to manage the situation. So do we judge Narasimha Rao more harshly than we do? We should, I don't know. Because there were so many people responsible there. That's also
Or did he believe that destroying the building is the only option? Did he believe that once the building is destroyed, the mosque is destroyed, that's the only option left now?
Yes, he could have thought, maybe he thought, I don't know, we can only conjecture, that, okay, if it happens, so be it. You know, that kind of a thing. And maybe as the Mandir Rajniti will get diluted, and during his term that happened. He won elections in the Hindi heartland in, less than a year. And Mandir didn't surface during his time. But this Hindu feeling, BJP had tasted blood, VHP had tasted blood, that they could bring down the structure and get away with it. Aaj tak, has anybody been penalized for it? The court, by giving its ruling, I don't know whether it did justice, but it certainly brought a closure to the issue.
I'm a retired civil servant, so I have questions on servants' role in advising the Prime Minister. You mentioned about the Principal Secretary to Mr. Vajpayee, Rajesh Mishra, but can you tell me what is the equivalent comparison of Principal Secretary's role in advising all the 6 Prime Ministers that you speak about? My second question is, you talk about 6 Prime Ministers. Let me repeat the question. No, 1 second. My question is very simple. what is the role of the principal secretary to the Prime Minister in advising the 6 Prime Ministers that you have written about? Question number 1.
Let me answer that, then we go to
The
question
second
number
question is
2.
related.
Okay.
You see, I've worked in the government 35 years. Cabinet secretary is supposed to advise the Prime Minister on all cabinet decisions which come with a cabinet agenda. Then you go to the Prime Minister, and then the Principal Secretary of the Prime Minister has got the final year of the Prime Minister in taking a decision. Now, this principle, if both are on equal terms, or on good terms, or have rapport, there is no issue. So I want to know whether this rapport, did you see this rapport in all the 6 Prime Ministers, the Cabinet Secretaries and Principal Secretaries, or was there a rift? Because if there's a rift, then other forces will come in.
I think the principal secretary, who the Prime Minister chooses, depends very much on the Prime Minister's personality, his way of functioning. The Prime Minister's office in Nehru's time was very low-key. You know, it was an official, junior, that joint secretary level. And because Nehru moved through cabinet ministers, so the 6th one, Indira Gandhi, very powerful Prime Minister. Narendra Modi, very powerful. Vajpayee, not so powerful because it was coalition government. But Indira Gandhi's time, the principal secretary, the PMO was run by P.N. Haksar. Who, Alexandra P.N. Dhar also, at various times. But she moved through very competent, tall officials. And Haksar influenced her policies, gave her ideas for her policy, not just executed her orders. So now, as far as Rao and VP Singh are concerned, they, as I said, both of them didn't let the right hand know what the left hand was doing. They used their people. They didn't rely on a coterie at all. Naresh Chandra was very close, and Verma was Rao's principal secretary, but Naresh Chandra was the one who was points person for the nuclear thing on Ayodhya, and to whom possibly Rao talked more than to anyone else, from what comes through. But it's not that he was relying on his principal secretary. So he was pretty self-sufficient politically in terms of ideas, what needed to be done. Vajpayee was not a nuts and bolts person at all. The most powerful principal secretary that India has seen is Rajesh Mishra. He was called the de facto prime minister, and in many ways was the de facto prime minister.
So P.K. Mishra is no less. P.K. Mishra is no less.
Today, the present prime minister's PMO is very powerful, but they are virtually faceless men. They stay under the radar.
Today, nothing else matters except the Prime Minister's office and the one person run. Nothing else matters except.
But the prime minister's office.
Not the Prime Minister's office. I'm using the Prime Minister. I'm using the word Prime Minister's office. Okay.
That's right. That's right. But you don't have a Brajesh Mishra or a P.N. Haksar. You have very powerful officials, but they stay under the radar, very consciously so.
Yeah, it is absolutely clear. As a student of political science, I may say that the position of principal secretary has no legal sanctity whatsoever. No legal sanctity whatsoever. Whereas cabinet secretary is not must. So there could be situations. Let me say. So there could be situations. There will be prime minister. Which I don't need it.
I procedurally the reason is that cabinet secretary brings those cabinet matters
He is the number one civil servant. He cabinet secretary. He is the number one civil servant of India. He is the cabinet secretary. Cabinet matters which come through a cabinet emitter. The principal secretary of Prime Minister is the 9 PM and 11 o'clock at night. So
Neerja, congratulations for your book, first of all, and it's a great effort. And as you know, that I have been with Doordarshan News for nearly 30 years, and Sir, even I have covered 6 prime ministers, starting from, of course, P.V. Narasimha Rao ji, with whom I had a little stint. And then, of course, I was pretty much close to Rajiv Gandhi, because we were all very young journalists with the Doordarshan News, and Doordarshan News was very important for the government at that point of time, and it always is still today. So I want to ask one question from you, since you have gone into details of PM's natures also. Why do we say that Rajiv Gandhi was very naive? I think he was not naive, he was very intelligent, but he was a wee bit decent. And many times he was misled and backstabbed because he trusted very close friends of his, which included Arun Singh. And I had met Arun Singh in his defense ministry office when he was there. And Arun Singh used to do the typing with his fingers and tell me that, look, these are very secret pictures, 2 to 3 lines I type myself. And I don't even depend upon Alok Sinha, who was his private secretary, as defense minister. So I think to say that Rajiv was naive, because he was the one who lost his life because of Bofors guns, also partly. But he bought Bofors guns which made us win the Kargil war. Until today, Bofors guns are very important for the defense of the country. And he was one-to-one, I think, the most gentle person, at least I've come across in my life. So I would like you to slightly elaborate on him.
You know, a lot of people have said this, that he was very decent, charming, thorough gentleman. Yes, absolutely. And as I said, he was futuristic, looking ahead. Where he fell, he didn't understand caste and religion and the hold it had on Indian mind. And I think that maybe Western upbringing much more. And that's where he fell between stools, 2 stools. To think that Muslim women पे कर दिया तो मुसलमान खुश हो गया, ये लॉक को ओपन कर दिया तो Hindu खुश हो गया, and he didn't understand why is it that they were not happy, why should they be bothered about what was happening to the other, आपको तो कुछ मिल रहा है. So that kind of thinking, and also as you said, he was misled, maybe he was misled, and he couldn't see through people. So again, as Manmohan Singh says, have we judged, history will judge me more kindly. Ho sakta hai Rajiv ko bhi, history may judge him more kindly.
Neerja, subsidiary to that, Prime Minister Manmohan Singh's daughter, Dr. Upinder Singh, and I are classmates from St. Stephen's College. So I had the privilege of meeting Prime Minister Narasimha Rao when he was finance minister with Mr. P.V. Narasimha Rao, and we used to visit his houses, students of St. Stephen's also. And Pulak Chatterjee, who ultimately became principal secretary to Dr. Manmohan Singh, he had a very important role to play, sir. And you said that, and it is Prakashji, not that Dr. Manmohan Singh did not trust Principal Secretary Pulak Chatterjee. In fact, people said, and lots of articles were written, that Pulak Chatterjee was a man of 10 Janpath, and everything was conveyed from 10 Janpaths to the Prime Minister's office. I don't know how much it is correct, because Pulak was, of course, a very smart guy, and and he was with the Gandhi family, as you know, in his bureaucratic level throughout. And when he was pushed out, he was the chairperson of the Rajiv Gandhi Foundation, and he used to sit all alone when nobody used to visit him. but he ultimately became Private Secretary to the Prime Minister of India.
That's right. Where is he now?
Well, now he's in Gurgaon. He lives.
He's
very
another
much-
one like M.K. Narayanan, whose memoirs would be very interesting.
Yes. Thank you.
I have a small question. Rajiv Gandhi did have a majority, the maximum number of MPs, and that is on record. He was elected as Prime Minister. But there was some dissent in the Congress party, parliamentary party. There was a talk of projecting Narendra Tiwari as an alternative. Have you got those information and what you would like to say?
Narendra Tiwari was in the reckoning after him. You know, when Narasimha Rao finally became, and Tiwari, Arjun Singh for a short time, and of course Sharad Pawar was a contender, openly so, when finally Narasimha Rao became. I didn't know about Narendra Tiwari earlier, whether he was in the reckoning as prime ministerial candidate.
During Rao's time, when Rao came, N.D. Tiwari may have become, but N.D. Tiwari was he lost the
He
election.
lost the
He
election.
lost
That's
the
right.
local election.
That's right.
That's why
Yeah, he would have been the front
Yeah,
runner
he would have
otherwise.
been
He was from the north.
I have a question. I wanted to bring the discussion to the present. We covered prime ministers, but I wanted to focus a little on the Prime Minister Modi. Do you feel of the 6 prime ministers that you have covered and we've read about them, would you say that Modi is probably the most powerful prime minister that we've had? If we just compare the 6 prime ministers, do you feel at this point where we feel he might win 2024, his uh, his his own position as a powerful politician, prime minister today maybe outweighs even Indira Gandhi's at her right?
No, Indira Gandhi was also very powerful. Very powerful. Because, you know, almost 4 decades have gone by and we are in the present, so we think, yes, but arguably, yes, Narendra Modi probably the most powerful so far. And continues to be popular 10 years down the line. That doesn't usually happen. And Indira Gandhi lost support and then she bounced back. Whether 2024 goes his way, it will all depend on what the opposition does, how effective they are. Not that they can dislodge, I think it will be very difficult to dislodge the BJP given the numbers it has. But if they bring down the BJP by 60, 70 seats, by getting together and having what they call the one-on-one Lok Sabha contest, then does the game get opened up, become a different game? In the sense that it will be a coalition government, more checks and balances. The leadership question, will it come into question from within the BJP? All these we don't know. But as of today, the way things are, I think Narendra Modi is all set to come back. As of today.
And then, of course, we had a series of coalition governments. And it so happens that, you know, BJP has got the majority. And I think this Modi becoming powerful is, in a way, dependent or has been dependent on the fact that the party has got a clear-cut majority of its own. And I will agree with you, suppose something happens, the number, you know, comes down. Then I think that will be the real time to know whether he was a powerful prime minister or not. If he can, you know, manage the coalition well, then only we can judge. Till then, I think we have to wait.
Hi, my name is Narayanan, and it's a very great to listen to you because you have been covering Indian politics for so many years, and you have seen the evolution of Indian politics for all these years. So I just want to ask you one very specific thing in terms of when did Indian politics actually become actively having the Hinduization? So you said about Indira Gandhi has got sort of interaction with RSS, maybe later Rajiv Gandhi also. So when this active Hinduization of Indian politics started in
Yeah, two, yeah. Ha, that's right. You have a woman.
You discussed about the founders and relations and RSS politically interacted with Congress, especially after the Bangladesh war. Even founders, Indira Gandhi did, Rajiv Gandhi did. My question is that when did Indian politics has got its active Hinduization started? Because in the initial 30 years, for example, when Nehru started, even after the disaster starts, this participation happened, it was not so Hinduized in that terms. But somewhere it started taking a U-turn and more become Hinduized. So in your experience, when did it start?
I think yes, Indira Gandhi's time is a defined period, partly because she lost the Muslim support, and partly also, I think this is a subject I feel the Hinduization of the Hindus is something that we need a greater, I feel I need a greater study on. Why has the Hindu turned so Hindu? It cannot be just brainwashing by a party like the BJP. There is something that they feel. Now, appeasement of Muslims is something that gained currency during Rajiv's time when he went in for Muslim Women Bill. That actually, with a law, you could undo a judgment of the court. But also, I think Indira Gandhi did not believe in ideology. Power was her ideology. Because she was when she came back from abroad after study and all, she was in the early 50s. She was a liberal left. Late 50s, she became right wing when G.P. Pant and UN Devar got her to become Congress president, and she dismissed the government in Kerala, communist government in Kerala. And then again in the late 60s, she was left when Haksar and the team were there. In 73, Sanjay came on the scene, Sanjay Gandhi, and she turned right again. And that rightward thing continued in the 80s when, after Sanjay's death and the last 4 years of her life. So she herself has said, I don't believe in isms. For her, it was it was a tool. Power is what she understood, and statecraft. So for her to do business with RSS, she needed the help. They needed to project a Hindu face. Both were trying to use each other. But she did it quite skillfully without losing the support of the Muslims once she had got it back in the early 80s. Rajiv would think, because mother had said meet them, and for any ruler, she would have thought that they are my opponents. I need to know what's happening with them, what is their thinking, what they're planning. Any ruler needs to have that independent sources of information. Rajiv was part of that, the mother did it. And then after that, of course, he went into Shilanyas and he did several things at their behest. Subsequently, of course, today Rahul Gandhi is very critical of the RSS, and Sonia Gandhi has also been very critical. So, this is what she herself. I quoted people saying she herself said her 350 seats, 3 seats were not possible in 1980 without 1984 to open that. Or 77 shares for that. Could be. Yeah, and also in 1980 election, the RSS was very unhappy with Vajpayee because they felt he was trying to secularize himself and she was trying to influence her politics. So, Jeevan Ram's projection as Prime Minister of Janata Party didn't go down very, very well with the upper caste constituency of the country. So there were various factors there. But that didn't mean that Indira Gandhi believed in the ideology of RSS. I don't think so. Also, a little bit after Bangladesh. That's also correct. Many people in the Congress used to say that. He started to lose their support.
Okay.
Yeah, that because of I think when she lost power earlier when she became prime minister, she took the oath in the name of constitution. Later election time, she took the oath in the name of God. So that change had also.
A very quick and crisp question. Can there be a book by you or by anybody else saying given the present political context that how Prime Minister Modi decides? Can there be a book on this?
Well, as I said, why I didn't do it because I didn't get enough information like with the other prime ministers. The inside information. And who knows in the future? Yes, I would certainly like to.
Really,
Before I request Simran to propose a vote of thanks, I want to present a memento for accepting our invitation and speaking
From all of us here at FCC, let me extend our deepest gratitude to you, Neerja ji, for coming here today. It has been a very lively, interesting discussion, and we've all enjoyed it. This was also streamlined on our Facebook page, and it will also be recorded in the archives page of the FCC. So any of you, if you want to see the discussion again, it will be available in our archives. Once again, a very big thank you for coming here and being with us today. Thank you.